that starts.
This meeting is being recorded.
It is. Cool. Hello, everyone, and welcome to AppSec Australia. Interesting because we call it AppSec Australia, but today we have panelists from all around the world, and not just Australia. So from Europe to India and, of course, Australia. Nice to see you, everyone, here. And yeah, so we have, as I mentioned, we have great panelists today with diverse skill set from different companies, like this, the size of the companies from small to big companies, and with different experiences so far with the SaaS tooling. So it will be great to see, to hear from them and ask questions. So as we go through the panelists when they talk, so if you have any questions, feel free to put the questions in the Zoom chat, and with this new Zoom, you can also vote for the questions when they ask. So you can basically put a thumbs up on the questions if it's your question. So we know those questions that have more, votes to ask first. And yeah, so let's get started. Back to Scott.
Thank you, Sari. So we are going to start by asking the panelists to introduce themselves and giving us a little background about their experience with the tools and some learnings and anything interesting they want to talk about. We'll start out with Ramandeep from Woolworths. Raman, over to you.
Thanks, Scott. Good evening, guys. I'm Ramandeep, an AppSec engineer working with the Woolworths crew. I started my journey in the IT industry as a software developer, and then I was presented with this cool opportunity to work as a security engineer at Suncorp. So I have around 4.5 years of experience in the AppSec industry now. And I have experience with on working with different SAST tools like Fortify, Checkmarx, Snyk Code, and Snyk Open Source. And I work closely with the developers, and I believe that security is a shared responsibility. Talking about SaaS today, I believe that the traditional way that we were implementing SaaS is not scalable and sustainable. Usually the size of AppSec team members is very small when compared to the size of applications that we want to scan and the developers that we want to support. So I feel that we should, look for a solution or a tool that is easier for the developers to consume, and a tool that is not for security auditors, because again, the ratio of developers versus security engineers is, quite small. So let's give the responsibility of security to our building blocks of software, that is the developers, and give them the tools, the guidelines, and the training that is required for them to build secure software. So and what I've seen in my experience is that we all talk about shifting left. We have shifted our tools left, but not the people and processes around it. So that is the key factor, right? A SAST solution is not going to be sustainable, or you're not going to get the benefits out of it that you want without shifting these processes and people, around, and people as well. You need these to complement the tool that you choose. So while we are talking about the tool, what are the important considerations that you would take into account while picking a tool? One, it should be developer friendly. Two, the time to scan. You don't want to wait for hours to get the results of a scan. So the speed is really important. And then the programming languages that it can support. Each organization, works on different technology. So consider, whether the tool supports the languages that you're coding in. And then, is it customizable, right? Can you get custom reports out of it? Can you set policies? Can you configure the tool in a way that it helps you? So these are the few important considerations that, we took into account when we chose a tool at Woolworths. And now talking about, yes, we have found a tool that is going to, give us the visibility for our vulnerabilities. But then there are other challenges also associated around it, right? So once you've got the tool, you know that, it throws, most of the SAST tools throw a lot of false positives, right? So then we have to deal with who is going to triage these results, right? And what are the important vulnerabilities that we have to look into, right? Because if you're scanning thousands of applications, you could have like a data dump, and you could have a lot of vulnerabilities to deal with. So how do we work with our development teams to triage, prioritize, and remediate these vulnerabilities? Because our end goal is not to just scan for the sake of visibility, but our end goal is to reduce the risk of our applications. And one thing that I have seen has been really helpful is when you have the buy-in from the management, because you can come up with all the amazing processes, tools, everything, guidelines, but if you don't have the buy-in from the management, the SASTs, the work that you want to do, the result that you're aiming for, it's not achievable. So I'll leave you on that note and pass it over to the next speaker.
Cool. Thanks for that, Raman. All right, I think it's over to Kasvi to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your experiences.
Yep, I'll keep this short. So I'm Cass, and fortunately I've met most of you before. Nice to see you all again. I've had kind of a similar tenure in AppSec as Ramandeep, so I think coming close to 5 years now, which is doesn't feel like that long. I spent a lot of that time over at Westpac, and I basically spent most of my time working on SAST and DevSecOps over there. So I did a lot of work in that space, very hands-on. And now I'm in an interesting space where I don't really touch SAST. I haven't really in my current role. We are looking at kind of rolling out SAST, so I will kind of get back into that soon. But yeah, that transition has been interesting. So this is really interesting times for me to be part of this chat and kind of reflect on past experiences, and also kind of hear about what everyone else is doing, and take those learnings for kind of working with SAST again, hopefully doing it better this time. And yeah, that's me.
Thank you,
Oh.
Kasvi.
Sorry, just really quickly, I am from Safety Culture, as I currently work at Safety Culture in the product security space. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Kasvi. So we'll go on to the next speaker. Our next speaker is actually from India. He works at Atlassian. Let me introduce Sid. Sid, can you please talk a bit about your experiences and tell about what you're doing and what you've done?
Yep, thanks, Scott, for this opportunity. So, I've been in AppSec industry for now almost 10 plus years, and I've worked with different orgs, different companies across different roles. My journey as security is very interesting. Like I started as a pen tester with one of the consultancy firm, then moved to Red Team in one of the product-based company. There was my actual learning as a part of a Red Team. Then from Red Team, I moved to Blue Team, there I understood what's the challenge for Blue Team rather than Red Team, how constructive security works rather than breaking things. And that's the challenge where you have to every day deal with developers, you have to deal with management, make them understand how security is, how we have to roll out process, strategy, tools, and everything. And there I was most really familiar with the rollout of SAST, and that was my visa where I worked in. And so being fintech, SAST was one of the primary stuff there. And the rollout was very challenging, like the evaluation, it took almost 2 years to fully automate the process. And how do we onboard developers? How do we do the baseline scans? How do we decide the top 10? How do we roll out the policies? How we should reduce the false positive rate and all that part. And that was a great learning for me. And the most difficult part was when there was a merger and acquisition. So whenever we acquired another company, how do we make them as per standard of the visa? How do we roll out how do we scan their code base? because the infrastructure is totally different. Maybe we are using Bitbucket, they're using GitLab, they're using GitHub. How do we do that plugin? How do we do it? How do we have a central database? How do you push everything to one place? That was a very challenging stuff there. And now in Atlassian, I have been in the same role, rolling out SaaS now. And I would agree with Ramandeep, like the management's buy-in is very important when we try to roll out something. Adoption is very important, that factor. And so we are trying to do a lot of stuff here. We evaluated tools, we are trying to roll out, we are doing piloting. And as Ramandeep mentioned, shift left is a lot about the attitude of the developers, a lot about the process that we shift to the left rather than just putting the tools in the left. So one of the major part of the tool evaluation we always thought of is how quickly we can catch something rather than scanning at the end phase, rather than, so maybe during it, let the developers have an IDE plugins, let at each PR, whenever I do a PR, let the code be scanned rather than just getting into master, maybe in any feature branch, any release, anywhere the code is being developed, it should be scanned for vulnerabilities. And frankly speaking, the greatest challenge with any of the SaaS tool is false positive. I completely agree with that. And to deal with these stuff, that's how tool has evolved. Like I have seen, like if you compare with SaaS tools back in 2013, 2012, they were just basic tools scanning something. But when we are using the current tools, like I would say in market, a lot of tools which have integrated the AI model, learning their own mechanisms, trying to do with that part. And that's really interesting what I have seen. Like if it's a CodeQL, it's open source, anyone can write their own rules. SemGrep, a strong community where you can write everything out of that. They're now having a deep code deep inside of the, like earlier SemGrep could not scan between different pages, how the sync and source are indifferent, they cannot scan it, but now SemGrep is developing. So a lot of tools, the community is getting a lot stronger in that manner. And definitely SaaS is, I won't say it's the final, it's the bulletproof jacket, but it's one of the tools which can help the developers in the productivity and reduce the ultimate exposure of threat at the end of the, like, it's more of a proactive tool rather than a reactive tool, which we can use it within the development lifecycle. So that's pretty much what I have learned about the journey in the SaaS implementing and everything. Got it.
Cool. Thanks, Sid. Thanks for the introduction. Now I'll pass it over to Stefano, who's currently in Italy, and it's probably very early in the morning for him to introduce himself. Thanks, Stefano.
So yeah, been around for a while. I met like many of you, so you already know me. So been AppSec for the past 20 years almost. Like it's like 18 years exactly to the date. Done SaaS for a long time. Now for a while SCAs. Now playing with another acronym, infrastructure as code, and container scanning. And so trying to do my best. Yes, I agree with all what you said before me. I totally agree with Sid with how these tools improved and how the open source and you know the community created tools are improving and are actually now shaping what probably will be the future. I totally love CodeQL. Sadly, you know, play with it because you need to have a proper license with GitHub, that comes with a very pricey tag. Played with GitHub Advanced Security last year. It's very funny. It's very nice. SemGrep is my fallback solution at the moment. We do have you know an enterprise paid solution, of course. I'm working for Sky Europe. I'm the DevSecOps transformation lead for Sky Europe at the moment, taking care of tooling for UK, Italy, and Germany. Sky is basically Stan. I don't know if you know the TV stuff. But there is a lot of software. There are a lot of developers, and we do have roughly 24,000 code repos between GitLab and GitHub and different instances of GitLab. It's fun. Yeah, I agree with Raman, right? When she said that, yeah, the buy-in and the support of the chain of command and the leadership, so CISO or the C-suite, CISO, CFO, CEO, CTO, blah, 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 all those people, they need to be aligned and be willing to commit and listen and enable you guys and us to do what we need to do. Because unless we're working for a company that delivers, I don't know, security stuff, we are preventing stuff, we're not making money for them. So we are, at best, we are trying to defend them from losing and money. So in that sense, yeah, it's a funny place to be, and if there's no commitment from above, it's a steep hill to climb. You can do that, but it will just take you to be more resilient and persistent, and eventually you'll get there. It's easier if the people above says, "Yep, here's the money." So yeah, yeah. Noticed like the use. Well, actually, we introduced in Westpac some time ago AI-driven filtering for false positives. The thing is, like, the whole thing is getting better. The adoption of those technologies are, well, look at ChatGPT. So it is improving our ability to filter out. Now, what I'm playing with is actually the next step, which is automated PR for both SCA and SAST. So I want to see if we can get to the point where we can tell the developers, not just please read here, or even worse, please log in on this different user interface, please look what the problem is, and then do your thing, do your development. I hope to be able to say, cool, like, I think this is the problem. I think this is a solution. If you want to see if you can test it, or for SCA is like freaking easy. Just PR, merge, run unit test, regression test automatically, get it done, get the thing tested. If it works, it works. Please approve. It's SCA is easy, freaking easy. We're doing that already. At SAST is, yeah, please read this piece of code and tell me if you agree with me. But yeah, that is having fun at the moment.
Great stuff. I don't see too many questions in the chat right now, so there are some messages around. But yes, maybe I just pass it on to Scott to kick off the spicy questions for the SAST tool from the panelists.
Okay, sure, I'll get it started. But yeah, we would love to have some audience throw some spicy questions. But it's interesting that Kasvi is starting to think about SAST again, because Kasvi's at a fairly small a fairly small company. So it brings up the question of when is the right time to bring in SAST? Kasvi, do you have an opinion on that, or should we let the other panelists speak as well? Let's start with Kasvi.
Yeah, I'm happy to go first. I don't know, but I'll say a little bit more than that. Yeah, so I guess back at Westpac, we did have a really big AppSec team. So we had a lot of people using the tool to audit, and now we have kind of a really small AppSec team and also a much smaller engineering team, but it still feels like there's a lot of us, a lot of engineers, because they outnumber us, obviously. I don't know when the right time is. Like, it would be really good to have it from the get-go, right? But things change. You might change, your build pipelines might change. You might move at some point from using GitHub to Bitbucket, and that might change things a lot. Like if you're looking at tools like GitHub Advanced Security, you know, amazing if you're on GitHub, not so amazing if you're on Bitbucket. So I'm not sure how this works with a really small place. For us right now, we're kind of pretty stable with all of the tool decisions that we have in the build space and the engineering space, I think. So I think right now, I think we're looking at something like 200 to 250 engineers, roughly. And it definitely feels like we need the tool. I think everyone would love to have it as soon as, you know, day one of building a product, but I don't know realistically if like your decisions would remain the same, even between, I know even at Safety Culture, between kind of last year and this year, we have kind of tried to trial lots of different tools. And, you know, we last year, we probably thought we might have gone with it. The SCA, for example, we probably had a different opinion last year, and it's kind of changed a little bit as the company grows, even though it's not growing as rapidly as before. So I just feel like, things change very rapidly when you're quite small. And so I think, yeah, maybe not from day one, maybe from day one, but right now definitely feels like we need to have a SaaS tool to look at findings at scale. Yeah. Anyone else want to jump in?
I have some views on when should we have a SaaS program. Yeah, like a lot of people say, like it depends upon the company size, it depends upon the industry you're working for, it's everything. But just to be a very like a nice thought process, or just to be a very as a layman, what I think always is the first process is whenever we are building a tool, of like whenever I'm in a company, like be it any company SaaS offering, a product-based company or something. Definitely our model is like revenue model. We want to sell this product and get money out of that. And that's what the things about the management things. So now the entire industry and then the world now is very focused towards security. Earlier, like if you go to around 2019, 90, 2000, security was never a part. Like the CISO position was just a fancy position. I do not know if it was there. But now the security is one of the most important aspects of any company if they buy a tool. The first thing, if you're going to sell your product to any of the fintechs, you're going to sell any federal government or anyone, the first thing is how secure is your product? Can it be, what are the things you have done to make your product secure? And I'm not sure how many of you know, like if you're going for selling the US government, federal government agencies, you need to have a FedRAMP certification, what they say is, and for that, now SaaS is one of the mandatory things. Now they say that if you want to sell your product to us, you have to perform SaaS. That's what they say. So when the early you start, so what happens? Like a lot of our companies, they didn't have a vision. The old companies never had a vision, like which started long back. They never thought like having something as that important. They had bug bounty programs. We do have code reviews, but nothing like in a solid manner. Nothing is like a process we have it. Though we always have been doing it in that way. So another thing is when we try to scan the code with some now commercial tools or bring up a process, what happens is the adoption doesn't become easy because this code have been lying around for 20, 25 years, 30 years. Now, if I scan this code and after 30 years, I see what are the bugs coming up, who is going to fix it? Those guys might have left the company, someone doesn't understand the code. So for me, what I always think is as early when you start, maybe I know funding is always a problem. Like no one wants to spend money right away from the security, but we have open source tools. We can use something like that to make the things work. And once we think we have a process, like rather than having even like a security code review tool, like a very popular tool, costly check marks or something like that, at least we can have SemGrep or something like this, very open source, or try to integrate with that, or build something, or try something. Build, I have a different opinion on that, but on that sense, like try some open source things to make a process on that and see how things take a shape or approach. And once you show the value to the management, definitely you get the funding out of that. Like when the management sees, okay, this is going to give me revenue. If I have the certification of FedRAMP certification on my tool, I'm going to generate revenue. Yeah, let's spend on some security because that's going to be being a cash cow for me and get me money. So and that's the approach how always the management or the shareholders or the big investors think, like, where do you get the revenue? And when they see, okay, the security is getting me some revenue, yeah, definitely they will invest on that. So that's very important in that respect for me. Your SaaS should be as early as a part, because it takes less, like if you implement late in your development life cycle, it's again going to be a problem, challenge to have a process in place, get the buy-ins, do the things done. And it's again a big thing. But as soon as you have it, it's better. And once the management is there, then I think your job is 50% done.
Thank you.
Katie?
Do you want to add anything, Stefano?
Yes.
on.
So it's so scaling is key. So in my opinion, but in the past my answer would be different. But then I had a chance to play with some stuff past couple of years. So it's achievable. Well, there is as I said, like we are dealing with like 20,000 code repositories, and I'm counting just the code repository. I'm not counting the branches, which is like maybe, let's say 10 times that total potential, difference between, so the code drift between branches and masters and so on and so forth. If the developers are doing parallel feature programming and stuff like that, it explodes pretty quickly. Now, having to face this kind of size, well, I had to do some thinking about it. Come up with this. So yes, there is a trade-off though. So we can scale pretty fast. So the faster you scale, probably the bigger the compromise you need to have, but not that big. Okay, like for example, you won't always be able to scan, have delta scan, so the just scanning the changed part of the code and being like ultra fast. So nightly or weekly, you need to be enabled, like you need to have a swarm of VMs or Dockers or containers that are available to you to parallelize the execution. But having that, and maybe you limit as a centralized, maybe you limit your action to the master branch instead of checking each and every branch. But at the same time, you deliver the developers the same capability for them to integrate in their own pipelines, so that you, as security capability, you basically have a look at the lay of the land. You sample the whole thing from maybe high-level position. You look at them all only on the default branches, both in the GitLab or GitHub or Bitbucket or whatever, instead of going, deep dive in the branches, and start there with like sending basic information to the developers on what you found there. So scalability is achievable, but there will be always a trade-off. I mean, for now, I do believe that there is a trade-off. Happy to see if anybody else found a better solution, because then, it's always good to improve, right? On how to achieve that, again, maybe you don't have the best tool, maybe you don't have the fancy, super expensive SAST or SCA. You need to build your own. The integration, to make it more reliable and be able to scale, avoid plugins, avoid hard dependencies on plugins, because you're buying into both hello pane of changes in the code repo. So GitHub changes something in their APIs, good, the plugin breaks. Jenkins or Concourse CI or whatever, the CI/CD tool changes something on their side of the fence, and happy days, your process breaks again. The SAST solution, which delivers to you the plugin, is not updating or changes something that breaks the process. Yes, happy days. Having an API first approach, keeping it simple, but like simple means in the book, like, yeah, you need to pull some heavy weight to build your own set of scripts or Python or whatever that orchestrates these actors. So the SAS, the SCA, the code repository, the CI/CD. Well, the CI/CD will not be used. You will not have to do much, but just execute this Python. So in my case, the solution was going that direction. So far, is working. It's not perfect. As long as you don't sell it as this is it, you're done. You'll be fine. You can, again, it's feasible. I see that working, but it's not perfect. So just if you want to scale, yeah, consider that. That would be my answer.
Thank you. Thank you. So we have now a few
Sorry.
questions in the chat. Yes. go on.
Correct. Yeah. Can I add on this question, like when to introduce? Just
Yeah. Go on.
So
Definitely.
just one thing, as everyone knows, that AppSec is not just about SAST, right? So I think we do need to consider that before introducing any SAST tool, that considering that it is a huge load on the existing AppSec team, right? And plus the developers whom you will be working with, we also need to consider what impact it would be having when you bring it. And would it be at the cost of the activities that your AppSec team is currently doing? For example, if we are already doing a tech sessions or manual code reviews or design reviews, right? If your team is going to be busy sorting out those false positives and considering that, okay, like I'm personally against the SaaS tools, right? So considering that how much value it provides, or maybe it finds 1 out of 100 real issues, right? 1 of the 100 issues may be real. So is it really worth that effort? Both, because even if it is free, it consumes AppSec team's time, and considering they are very limited in number, you are actually creating a gap somewhere. Yeah. So just that.
Yeah. Can I just add to that? Because I think that speaks to the comment that I just posted in the chat. I think what I've started to see as I've moved roles is it's important not to build or use tools just because they're available, because I just don't think it delivers enough value. And you might be getting really good value out of something else, like a really good bug bounty or a really good internal pen test. So I just wanted to second what Ankur said there.
Yes, definitely. But don't you think if, pen testing and bug bounty, they are towards the end of the software development life cycle, and and the cost of fixing vulnerabilities over there is going to be more expensive. So I know that a lot of tools throw false positives, but if we divide the responsibility, and rather than the AppSec team triaging all the results, work with the development teams, help them prioritize the issues, so that they can start scanning as soon as possible. Maybe have a tool that has IDE integration, right? So that I know that we have a backlog of issues that we need to look into, but if you give them the visibility while they are coding for the vulnerabilities that they are going to introduce, at least new vulnerabilities won't be introduced, right? Not adding more vulnerabilities is also reducing your backlog, right? So
yes. So bug bounty can be at the end of the cycle, but penetration testing can still be done before you go into production. And I don't think that anyone's saying that we shouldn't do SAST. It's just that we shouldn't do it just because. And yeah, like Ankur said, you should assess where, and this is all like really kind of ideal state. Yes, things might go really well and everyone might fix the issues, but that doesn't always happen. And a lot of times they just get ignored.
So there's I mean, it depends on the size, as you said, like not everything works at every scale. If we are talking about like medium to small shop, let's say 100 developers, let's say 50 developers, okay, that manual approach, that very tailored approach, that very personal, in-person kind of relationship works, and it's actually way more effective than any SaaS or any tool that we can find. Tools help, but they help, but maybe at that size, other way of doing things are still feasible and more effective. If we reach like let's say 500, now I'm start talking about, how many streams and how many releases per month. If we look around, like, let's say 500, 600 releases per month in deployed in production, I mean, I don't have enough pen testers for that. You look for other solutions, but then actually, and also you remember when we were like in Westpac, I think he is wasting the fine neurons inside a pen tester brain to ask them to, can you please do me this like 2 hours PT on this API change, please? It's go away. So it's a matter of scale in terms of how big is the problem that you're trying to solve. It's a matter of scale of how fast the people are delivering in production. So different things work at different scales at different times.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, every security tool, like most security controls are too slow if your engineering team is going at like, 200 miles per hour and they're trying to get features out all the time. So there's that as well when you're working with like in kind of smaller spaces. You can't do that. You can't always do that.
Yes, exactly. So the point is like what I had when I was telling you about, the constraints and the some limitations that you need to accept. Don't block them. I'm not blocking them. I'm informing them that there is a problem, and then I'm talking to our peers in risk management and compliance and blah blah. Say, this idea of preventing like the production line to go do their job and deliver added value and therefore getting money for the company. This idea of blocking them from doing their job, it doesn't work. Just get over it and move on. Let them do the thing. Yes, you need to inform them and work with them over time to fix as much as possible. But you're not like, you shall not pass. Just good luck. Sorry.
Yeah, interesting topic, really. Very interesting. If anyone has anything to add, please do. Otherwise, we can move on to the next question.
There was a nice question from Eldar, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to repeat the question on behalf of Eldar. Let me just find it because we are I'm losing the track. Okay. So how do you ensure the SaaS tool stays relevant in the dev process? In many orgs, I've observed it become a neglected platform, or Jira queue of ignored tickets? Who likes to answer this one?
I can give it a go.
Yeah.
So recently what we have observed is that choose a tool that the developers like. It's easy for them to use and it gives them immediate feedback. We know that they are very busy, we are working in agile environment, and they have a lot of features to deliver, and maybe with any SAST implementation, you're not going to see immediate results. Give them some time, give them some visibility of what the outstanding issues are, and at the same time work on training them as well. Maybe they are aware of those vulnerabilities, but if they don't know how to fix them as well, they're going to ignore them. At the same time, use the top-down approach as well, wherein you get support from your management and, they prioritize security. They allocate some bandwidth, each sprint or each quarter to remediate these security vulnerabilities as well. And another thing that we have seen is good is building a network of security champions, assigning responsibility to them. So maybe in each squad, identify a security champion who would be responsible to run security within their squads. It's a combination of things. It may work, it may not work, but it works in few cases at least. Something is better than nothing.
Right. Anyone else like to add?
I can,
No,
as always.
yeah.
Oh no, Sid, you go.
No, I just said, yeah, I agree with Ramandeep. Like it's combination of approaches that we have to take. A lot of issues lie back. Yeah, that's the reason why we have false positives that's ignored and everything. Two aspects: fine tuning something, or you can make it. And the best part is, let's try something, not to introduce something new. Maybe the first time the baseline is something which takes the time, but after that, we make sure that nothing new is coming up. At least we inform the guys. We don't block a build. We don't fail a PR. We don't. We say, hey, you got something. Can you have a look at it? Maybe during the build process, it just gives a warning. Hey, there's something coming up. Can you have a look at it? As a part of a PRGB process, like someone as a peer reviewer, someone sees your results. Like you approve a PR. We have two folks who approve a PR to get it merged in the master. So at least they can see the results. Oh, okay, there's something coming up. Can you tell me why you use this part of code? Why this came up? That's all. We are just making. We are trying everything to make the company secure, the code secure, and it's just not only SaaS that can deliver. It's secure coding practices. It's your secure coding trainings. It's your security champions. A combination of all which is going to deliver a good result. It's not that one tool can do a magic. Tool is just it's a machine. It's something, a rules that's being written, that's scanning things. But it's the process. When we try to implement it, that's going to deliver the results in a long time.
And
Kazri, you want to go on that?
No, you go.
No? Okay. Keep it relevant. Again, yes, absolutely. Like if you have the luck of getting like a security champion inside a silo, inside a part of the organization, inside a development team, that is great. As long as this champion can be a champion and he is not just, oh, I did Secure Code Warrior, I'm a green belt or whatever, and I read this and that and did CISP. Yeah, that is a good start. But then you need to build trust with these people because you're effectively delegating part of your responsibility to them. I'm lucky. I do have some of them, not all, not nearly enough. But yes, that can help, that greatly help. To be honest, the false positive ratio is like, I'm not dealing with many as I was dealing that before, to be honest. Maybe because I started with like a long time ago, and false positives were like way much of a pain than it is today. But yeah, it seems that, you know, the problem is slowly but steadily going away. So the ability of building trust with the developers and have them doing what we ask them to do consistently is also, yeah, is related to false positive ratio and all that. Another thing that I found very, very, very effective though is providing the feedback where using their tools, using basically working as they work, giving the information that they need where they expect it. What do I mean with that? For example, before when we started, we were talking about like GitHub Advanced Security. All our tools at the moment, they either natively report in Sarif or we made that so that the tools would, you know, the reports would be basically formatted in that way. There would be a Sarif.json. With Gas was very, very convenient. Just upload the Sarif file to GitHub, done. And that is delivered to the developers on the branch that you wanted. And with highlight in context on the code base so that they could see straight away either the developer themselves or the tech leads or the, you know, whoever was taking care of that grooming, they would know straight away. Like, we don't have that capability for GitLab. So open issues. If you have a bug and you're a developer, what do? You open an issue. Cool. We use exactly the same logic. In that way, it becomes more natural. You're not asking someone that is busy every day writing code and solving problems for this PM or that marketing person to ask them, okay, can you please log in on this like horrible user interface with maybe that is not integrating in your single sign-on. That makes life hard. So make their life easy, and that will, you know, you will stick more to them. That you'll be more relevant for longer, as long as you don't tell them BS. But yeah, that is kind of happening. Of course, there are some security control which are less prone to false positives, which is challengeable. I can challenge that sentence myself. Like, for example, many people say, "Oh yeah, SCAs is like as good as it can get." Like, you have that version of that library, you're done, mate. That's not true. But telling them, yeah, you are like on a version that is like 5 years old, and yeah, you should actually update that. Let's try. Let's do that. It's normally, you know, accepted. So it also depends on how you interact with them. And as I said before, and that is for Peter. Yes, I'm ruthless. What creates frustration? But this is just psychology, and, you know, nothing to do with like technology or security stuff. If you tell when the frustration starts with them is when you tell them that something is a problem and that is preventing them from doing their job, so delivering, and then there is like a bunch of people screaming at them because they have to go in production now, actually yesterday. So that kind of pressure, psychological pressure on the developer teams is caused by you, so us, telling them you shall not pass. If you say, Seal, let's have a look. Yeah, but it's going in production. Yes. If you're not doing this test, like let's say last year, you didn't even know that there was a problem. You would have been bearing the risk without knowing. So you will have had a known unknown. Now, the fact that you know that you have a problem, yeah, you need to do something about it. Absolutely. But I'm not the one telling you, stop doing what you're doing. I tell you that there is a problem. I tell other people that there is a problem. It will be them telling you to stop and maybe slow down and take care of this, instead of me putting you between a rock and a hard place. That creates frustration. That creates the pushback. That creates the kind of, I don't want to deal with this. Therefore, people getting disenfranchised and not supporting and not doing what we ask them to do. So that's why I'm taking the problem not from a technical perspective, but more from a, yeah, let's be friends.
It's a very interesting approach and food for thought. But so you basically allow them to push a SQLi, a knowingly vulnerable SQLi, for instance, into prod, and like that's already something that, yeah, I would personally reconsider. But like, how do you get the confidence that they come back to that and fix that within whatever SLA you have for critical or P1?
I tell them that there is a problem. I tell them that if they can, they should. If they cannot, then you can set the process to say, cool, this is a risk. Now we put this information somewhere else. We put there like an SLA, and that is not on them. That ticket, that risk, that is now is moving from you have a severity problem, you have a technology problem, to you have a risk for the business risk for the organization. Now that becomes another kind of team problem depending on the size of the organization. I mean, if you can go and talk to them, it's easy. I can't, but too many people. In that sense, you can go say, cool guys, business team, your risk, your business, your revenue has this problem. And since it's critical, yeah, you should do something about it as soon as possible. Now, you need to tell your people to stop doing what they're doing, stop doing what you ask them to do, and do this. So the information doesn't come from the developers. The decision of giving the developers enough time to see if that is a problem, and then if it's a problem, solve it, is coming from above. It's horrible. Honestly, I don't like it. I would like to enable the developers to do what they need to do, but when you have the sizable number of developer and code repositories and all the above hierarchy of people deciding and taking decision on budget. As I said, something works at one scale, something else works at the other scale. I'm seeing this kind of things working on my scale. And again, I know that it's ruthless and it's like, yeah, like crazy. There's a SQLi, yes. I think you should be fixing now, actually yesterday. But it is also true that has been there is part of our baseline, has been there for the past. When was this code written? 5 years ago. Has it been exploited? Do you have a pen tester who exploited it? No. Do you have proof of exfiltration? Do you have all this shenanigan? No.
Yeah. So would you approach that differently if that is something that they introduce now in this PR new code they added today? Would you still allow that to go through?
That is the stickiness. So that is like having the integration as early as possible, as often as possible, and telling the developers, dude, you have a SQLi, and most of the time, or lady, you have a SQLi. Most of the time, what I'm seeing, what I'm seeing, achieving that stickiness and having the information inside the code repository, inside GitHub or GitLab as an issue, they actually fix it. You don't have to ask, because you're not asking them to do anything more than that. But most of I'm lucky that way, probably. Right now, I'm seeing this. Like my statistics, my metrics that I'm pulling out of the systems are telling me that the people, by and large, they want to do the right thing. And you know, if it's a critical for real, and it's like SQLi, RC is XSS if they are still relevant. I mean, all that injection and lack of validation stuff is not that difficult to fix, and they kind of get it. So most of the time they fix it, not all the time.
And also, Steve, just considering it's more of we are going into that risk management, but it also depends on, like, for example, SQLi, it's a critical issue, right? So it will not be, the risk will not be accepted by a developer. It will be CTO or someone who, and our job is to help them understand that this is the impact on business. This is how it is translated from technical to business risk, or that's how it will impact your business if it gets exploited. And then maybe CTO or someone at higher position can only take that call to accept that critical risk, right? Like it will not be developer, right? That, yeah.
Yes and no. You know that you always have. I am a smart ass, so you always have that dude say, "Yeah, no, that's fine." So that you have the business says, "Oh, why is this critical?" No, just don't trust that. This BS. So
yeah.
Again, I'm saying if you play statistics is a different kind of ballpark. So
Great stuff.
let's move on.
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, but yeah, it's good to move on to the next question. So Jose, do you want to ask your question yourself?
Yeah, sure. I can ask my question. So, hey team. Great discussion on SAST, and there was a lot of discussion on new products which are going to hit production and how to utilize SAST for the new products and new code which gets committed. Interested on your take on how do you deal with SAST for legacy code? It could be legacy backend and code which has never been code reviewed, or which existed from probably the beginning of time. So how is it worthwhile trying to integrate a SAST into that, or is it more of a bug bounty and penetration testing, and let's just find incidents as if there anything kind of pops up? I'm just interested to know, like, have you ever had to face a challenge, and do you have a good method or good tips on how to integrate SAST into a legacy product?
How legacy?
At least maybe 5 to 10 years old. Yeah.
Sid?
We tried exactly what Charles said. We tried that. We tried to scan one of the code base, NetLation, which was 20 years old, which has never touched upon. And we started with that. And so actually that code was forked from a legacy code, and we tried to scan that part of the code. And one thing I can say about, it's definitely one of the biggest challenge, scanning legacy code, because that code has never been reviewed. We don't know what lies inside. It's just a surprise as the developers sent to the security engineers. We don't know. And that code was developed 20 years ago, so we do not know who wrote it, what was written that time, what type of coding standards they followed. And when we scan the code, one thing I can definitely say, now the new age tools have become a little bit intelligent. The rate of false positive has gone low, but yes, we still have false positives. But what I would recommend is, whenever you're trying to do a legacy code scan, plan it ahead, take the buy-in from developers and everyone, and maybe security champions or everyone from the security partners who are associated with those products, take a buy-in from them and let them know that we are going to try an exercise on this legacy code. And because of maybe that's a part of your job or something coming up or something, and You can start with that. Have a timeline like, okay, we will do it in the next coming quarter or something. See the code, analyze it, see what's the rate of false positive. At least don't start bugging the developers from the day one. Let's analyze the code, how the results look like, what's the rate of false positive. I would recommend first target high and critical ones rather than going to the low and medium, because they're where you see the highest rate of false positive. At high, the rules are meant like that. You don't see a lot of false positive at that. So just focus on initially high and critical ones. See once you start the trashing with the help of the developers, and just make them sure if they have the bandwidth to fix it, what's the timeline they can think of, or what's the thing. Once you are comfortable and once the development team has a buy-in, yeah, we are comfortable, yeah, these are actually high issues, we see this has to be fixed or something, then you can move to the medium and low ones, and there you see actually there the thing comes up where you can fine-tune the tool. And when you analyze these results, you understand why these are coming up. These are not actually the actually issues. Maybe they're using HTML encode functions, they're using a text utils encode, something like that, and still it's popping up in your scanners. Why? We are using proper encoding mechanism. Like this should not come up. A lot of times these tools are like very legacy tools, so you need to spin up these tools. So the developer has to run the commands to spin it up, and it shows its command injection, because this is how the tools has to run on your system. And scanner doesn't understand that it's a legacy tool. You have to input commands, then it spins up, and that time you have to understand, okay, maybe this sort of policies I have to define for this repo or this project, that any type of this thing should not crop up in my upcoming scans. And once you do the baseline scan, then what you can do is, then you have this shift left thing that a new vulnerability doesn't get introduced, maybe at a PR level, at somewhere at that point, when it's notified, when the developers get notified, hey, I see that you are doing a merge and this part of the one, and I see something coming up. So that's the approach that we took here at Atlassian, and a lot of support is needed. Definitely, I would say a lot of support is needed from the development team and from the security champions and all the partners and everyone, just to do this part. It doesn't happen overnight. Like, we had to plan, we had to do the things, and we had to take a buy-in from everyone, and then we started the thing. So yeah, that's a challenge, but yeah, it's doable. It's not like impossible.
So Raman and Kasvi, do you want to add anything? And Stefano, of course.
I think Sid has said it all. So yeah, nothing from my end here.
Not really. I don't think I've dealt with as much legacy code as maybe Steve.
Just because I'm old.
That's not what I said.
Yeah, well, that's what you implied. Yes. So it is true though. So what legacy code, depending on the language, depending on what we are talking about. Normally, old doesn't mean bad. If you are getting like an old code base from very tight engineering development shop or team, that will ping something out if you throw like a SAST against it, and SCA probably that will be pinging like a Christmas tree, because legacy, maybe old out of date libraries and stuff like that. But for example, what I will see as a challenge mostly is like, okay, getting the thing going, getting the scan going. In that sense, probably as a first pass, I would look at like do something that is rough and doesn't require compilation. Most of the time, legacy code is Java or C# or C++ or something that requires compilation to be scanned in an effective way. In that sense, SAMGREP, just off you go. Basic scan, look at the injection flows, injection vulnerabilities, and and that. Get what you get and move from there. SCAs, same. That is fairly simple. Just throw the tool at the folder when you have that stuff and tell the tool, look at every library that you find here and let me know what's going on. And then we have a bunch of information that is all backlog, depending on the budget. The has been there for, let's say, 10 years. Is it going to stay there for another 10, or is it going to be, oh, I love this. Oh, no, it's going to be decommissioned next year. Next year come around, yeah, next year. But I said next year, not a date. Yeah, that's a thing. But yeah, that is just, you know, chasing and fixing over time. As I said before, this is the first time you're looking at the problem. You will get a bunch of problems and vulnerabilities out of the scan. You have been bearing that risk for the past 10 years. So you are sitting on the bomb, literally, for the past 10 years, and you didn't even know that you were sitting on a bomb. Were you scared before? No. Why do you need to be scared now? Just so handle it over time and have the discussion with the people that say, no, now I need to fix it. No, actually, you don't need to. Nobody is telling you that. And you didn't do it. You didn't know yesterday. Now you know it. So what the hell? What's changed? Okay, now I know it. So I have to do something. Okay, who said that? So legacy, it is what it is. And if it's so bad, well, you can go back and, as probably Scott Contini probably did some time ago, you take this and you just burn it. Just go away. This code is horrible and is not maintainable. There are, you talk to the developers, say that every time I have to touch something, I'm scared shitless. Sorry for the French in the recording of touching it, because I don't know if it's going to break or not. I don't have that knowledge. The people that who develop that, they're already on retirement somewhere else, and I know nothing about this. I inherited this. Maybe I'm the third inheritor. I don't even know how they started on this. This is my job. I have to keep this thing alive, even if I think it should be dying. This is what the developers will tell. So in that sense, maybe facilitate that discussion to be had at higher levels. Say, I think that this is so bad, which I think we did some time ago in Westpac, said, look, this is so bad that the problem is not security. The problem is that you should be changing that because it's not working. You're spending too much money in keeping this alive while you should be thinking about a different solution. Yeah, but it's working. No, actually it's not. You're spending this much money to keep the thing alive. And when you put that in that perspective, then perspective change on the other side most of the time.
Cool. Okay. The next question in the chat I can find from Phil. Phil, do you want to ask the question yourself, or I can read it for you? Okay. I can probably do that myself. So what metrics do you think are important, and how do you measure effectiveness of your SaaS program? So Caspi, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm trying to reflect on what we kind of did in the bank. I mean, it would, yeah, I think it would, the way that I think that we want to measure it right now is actually just making sure that people are adhering to whatever SLAs we set up. So we don't have SAST in place right now. So I'm talking about tickets that we would just kind of raise from manual testing. But I think it would be good to measure based on how much remediation is happening, because ultimately you want people to fix those issues, right? So I feel like that's a good one, remediation within SLAs. But to be honest, I don't have that much experience in this space. someone else who maybe has done a lot of work with metrics?
Yeah, I think we mostly probably focus on the effectiveness on the SaaS, how we can basically measure that the SaaS tool that we use are basically effective.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that logically would be remediation.
Like for me, like what I heard, what I like to think as a metrics, two parts I would divide it. One is coverage, second is effectiveness. So like I do not know how many repos we have, how many branches in that repos, or whatever things are there. So how the SaaS coverage is looking at in my org, or how we are dealing to roll out SaaS to every team, and how the codes are being scanned. So one part is coverage. That's what I want to measure as metrics. Second is effectiveness. Yes, effectiveness is various parameters. Maybe how effective is the tool is, the rate of false positiveness when that tool. That's very important aspect to see how the tool is functioning. Second is the SLAs, as you mentioned. How we take care of that the vulnerabilities are being triaged and are being fixed and all that part. So the most important part is the effectiveness is the tool should be effective. If the tool is not developer friendly, no one is going to use it. That's very important. So you have to make sure the tool is very effective or is useful in the sense that it's actually identifying good things and the developer is happy with that. Once that's there, automatically that option will be very easy. And yeah, senior management take is very important onto that, because if it's always like, I would say, if anything is optional, no one will try to fix it of their own unless they are very security minded. If everything is optional, like you say, even if a bug bounty finding also comes and someone says that's optional, developer will never fix it. It will work on his feature release rather than fixing something, unless it's very important and critical. So that's how things should be. There should be something on that front. But before making any SLA or anything, the important part is getting the tool effective. It doesn't report a lot of noise. It doesn't have a lot of noise. It's not creating any problem in the development lifecycle. That's very critical for any adoption. Or so you should run Python programs, make sure the tool is working up to the standard, things are going forward. Then you can have your SLAs defined. Just as I mentioned, just first focus on high and critical rather than going to everything, all medium, high, low, every year. It's not that approach. Just focus on few things or identify the tier 0, the critical application where it's very important rather than rolling out across everyone. Just let's focus on the very critical applications where actually that can be a meaningful contribution. And then slowly make it a process. Yeah, anything that's part of your compliance or something, or your business sticks or something, criticality, then roll out slowly. And then after that, you will have more metrics. You can have tool effectiveness, you can have adoption, you can have SLAs, you can see how the teams, how they're adopting it, what are the challenges, then you can have a feedback loop, you can have more metrics onto that. So that's what I can think of.
Metrics are different. You can measure effectiveness of your initiative by measuring remediation. Absolutely, yes. Remediation has some constraints, though. Depends on how good you are in providing effective information to the developers. Say you're just opening the gates and provide them every output from a tool that you know already maybe is like 70% accurate and 30% false positives. Well, that is already just degrading your effectiveness, because you're sending 100 and they would be fixing at most, if they do everything, 70. So you still, you'll be measuring in a way that will not be super effective. So you need to caveat all those metrics that explain exactly what they do and what they are about. To look at, I would actually look at the problem from a different angle. Is okay, we tell you that you need to scan. Okay, how often? What is which tool are you scanning? We tell you that you need to scan your code base with I don't know, SCA, SAS, and ESC. Cool. Are you doing that? Yes. Step one. Cool. They're doing that. How often? Are you doing that on all your code bases? Are you doing that on all your branches? How often? Are you doing that on code commit? Are you doing that nightly? So I will look at the how the developer teams and the engineering teams are adopting our solutions. So we'll look at the effectiveness in the sense of are they using the toys that I'm giving them? I'm telling them they need to use. Cool. Then let's look at the results. If they're not using them, if they're not scanning, yeah, all perfect. So yeah, step one. Step two is, okay, how many issues how many false positive I got? How many pushback I got from them? How many I agreed that they were false positive, and you have to discuss further to actually explain that actually that was a true positive. So that would be measuring my effectiveness as a service owner. Am I doing a good job? I need to be sure that I'm doing a good job. Otherwise, no matter what, the remediation will be affected by that. I'm not doing my job. Yeah. Measuring just them is what they do. It will not be fair on the developer side, in my opinion. Then, cool. If I did my homework, they are doing their homework, they're doing the scan. I'm giving them information that we agreed by and large it's trustworthy. Okay, cool. Based on that, I will measure how quickly something is fixed, not how much is being fixed, is how much in the amount of time. If you're dealing with a team which is waterfall, yeah, I mean, they release maybe 4 times a year, and that's their release cycle, and that their maybe velocity, whatever. And then you have the super agile CI/CD, no matter what, just let me go in production team, and they will be working at different speed. So you also need to put that in the picture so that you don't mix the two. They're not the same. They're not one. They're orange. The other one, they are apples. So I will look at those kind of metrics. I will think about metrics when you are already on the journey. It's something that you should need to keep in your mind because someone will ask you to take care of. But yeah, it's not something that will pop up day one. Someone will ask you to have an answer to that question. Absolutely yes. You don't have to solve this problem straight away. You need to think about it when you build your stuff so that when someone will ask you that question, you'll be already prepared. You already have the data set already cut in the way that you need it to answer the question and implement that metric. But you have to solve it straight away because you don't know the system most of the time. You get there for the first time, you're starting a new initiative for DevSecOps or AppSec, and you don't know the environment, you don't know the lay of the land. So just do recon, look at what's going on, take your time. Don't assume that you know everything. And then see.
Great. I'm conscious of time. I'm not sure if we have time for more questions, or there are a few questions left in the chat. But yes, it's just 6 minutes. Maybe we can just have a quick one. So Rosalind, I can see in the chat. So do you want to ask your question, or do you want me to read it for you? Okay, maybe I just read it. So it's basically about the security champions? And what are the criteria for a security champion? And how do you know that someone is ready to actually take on extra security related tasks?
Can I jump in here?
Yeah, definitely.
Quickly. So we don't have formal security champions, but we've seen sometimes people will start to ask questions or show a lot of interest in how we're doing things, or they might even want to help us out with something that we're rolling out more broadly, and kind of vouch for us with broader engineering teams. So I think those are really good signs. Just asking, if someone's asking you lots of questions about like, how does the security team do this, or how do they do that, or can we do this a little bit better? Or if they're kind of speaking to other engineers about security, I think those are like really good signs. We don't have formal security champions, but I've seen people do that, and I think informally those would be like great security champions. And the other thing is as well, if you're just kind of friends with you, I tend to make a lot of friends that are not in security, and that kind of helps as well.
I would also say that anyone who's interested in security, right? So for security champions, you cannot have a developer or a BA or a QA who already knows a lot about security. But if they are intrigued, if they have that willingness to learn, so they are your possible candidates for security champion, and then you can work with them on training them and uplifting their security skills.
Nice. Great stuff. I really like to continue discussion, but yes, there are a few things left still that it was good to talk about, but yeah, of course we don't want to go over. It was really great to have you all. So I just hand over to Scott to basically have the finishing speech.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today. We hope you enjoyed it. We're looking forward to more events. We have a couple that we're aiming for in the future. Hopefully, they will be online and in person. So also, if anyone's interested in speaking, reach out and we'll try to line you up. So thank you, everybody, for coming, and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you,
Thanks,
Scott.
everyone.
Thank
Jack.
you.
Everybody.
Thank you. See you.
Miss you.